choir.
When I cannot seem to love again, and the raindrops won't never end. If you just hold on, those clouds will soon be gone.
There's a
blessing in the storm.
choir.
Help me sing.
There's a blessing in what?
There's a blessing in the storm.
Let's jam right now. Come on. Hey.
The storm,
The storm. One more time, y'all. Back to the verse, y'all.
when I cannot seem to
Come on.
love again,
And you can love again.
and the raindrops fall,
And the raindrops fall.
never end.
And never.
If you just hold
If you
on,
just hold
those clouds will
on.
soon be gone.
There's a blessing.
There's a blessing in the storm. Help me sing it.
There's a blessing.
There's a blessing in the storm. Help me sing it.
There's a blessing.
Good evening, Mount Vernon. This evening I would like to talk to you about a storm. The storm is a disturbance of a normal atmospheric condition, manifested itself by strong winds and often accomplished by rain, thunder, lightning, snow, hail, or sleet. There are several types of storms. One is a hailstorm, which is a storm with hail. Snowstorm, a storm accomplished by a heavy fall of snow. Then there's the thunderstorm, a transition storm of lightning and thunder, usually with rain and gusts of winds. Another storm is a tropical storm. A tropical storm is different than the previous mentioned storms. It's a cyclone of less than a hurricane force. Hurricane is a violent tropical cyclone storm. Another storm is a tornado. A tornado is localized, violently destructive windstorm occurring over land. A whirlwind is a small rotating windstorm, sometimes violent and destructive. Key factors for a storm is the climate, and the climate consists of, or is generally prevailing weather conditions of a region and temperature, air pressure, humidity, precipitation, cloudiness, and wind. Another factor for a storm is the season. And the season we fear and anticipate the occurrence or the oncoming of a storm. Now generally with a storm, especially during the season, it occurs several times during the year. Springtime, which is representation of youth, and that is in the month of March and April. It also occurs in summertime, which is a representation of middle life, and that's generally in the month of May through August. Now, fall and winter storms occur, and they're representation of the senior years. And that generally takes place in September and December. Now, in mentioning about the seasoning, generally seasons relate to our lives. We all live a season. We have a season of youth. We have a season in life of being a part of the middle age group. And then there's always the senior years. And generally, in speaking about senior years, we need to understand that whatever point that we're living in our life, storms do occur. And they occur in the various seasons as I mentioned. I recall when I was a young boy, during storms, I would bang on the wall, make all kinds of noises and things of that particular nature to frighten my aunt. And I remember her saying on various occasions, my actions really wasn't funny. What I was doing really wasn't funny to her. She also said that if you're ever caught in a storm, you will never forget the experience. And I thought about the disciples of Jesus. And the Bible, it tells us that the disciples were even caught up in a storm. And on this particular occasion that they were caught up in a storm in the boat, they cried out to Jesus. They cried out to Jesus. And they asked him, did he care anything about them? Did he really care enough not to let them perish? And in calling out to Jesus, it reminds me of the fact that in our lives we have to sometimes call out to Jesus. And I also relate to an experience of my own. In the year 2006, I went to the cardiologist, and the cardiologist told me that I had maybe 30 days to live. And if I didn't have an operation, that he couldn't guarantee the 30 days. And he recommended that I would go and see a surgeon. And I went to see the surgeon. And in my going to see the surgeon, we set up an appointment, the wife and I, for the surgery. And we came back home and made preparations, looking forward to the time for the surgery. And the doctor that was going to do the surgery took sick, and he had the flu. And as having the flu, he had to consider either canceling the surgery or considering someone else to do the surgery in his place. He was looking at the time factor that he had suggested. I had a possibility of maybe 30 days. And so he said, well, the only thing that he could recommend would maybe be his doctor that was in his office. And he said to me, he says, I want you to go and see this doctor because he's the one that trained me. I'm his protege. So I and the wife went to see the doctor. And in our going to see the doctor, we heard someone coming down the hall, shuffling. And the wife looked at me and I looked at her, and she said, do you hear some shuffling? I said, yeah, I hear someone shuffling. So he came into his office, and we were sitting there, and he said to me, he says, I generally like to see my patients upright and not flat at the back when I see them. And the wife looked at me, and I looked at the wife, and I looking at her, and she looking at me, wondering, is this the person that's going to do the surgery? And he said, well, I'm going to do the surgery for Dr. Robinson, but I don't normally come into the city of Detroit. I just don't come in, anymore. He said, but I'm going to do the surgery. So the wife said, he said, first of all, is it okay with you that I do the surgery? Would you want to postpone it until Dr. Robinson is able to do the surgery? And I looked at the wife and I said, well, we've made up our mind that we were going to have this done on a certain day, and we might as well just go ahead and do it. She said, well, do you feel comfortable about it? I said, yes, I feel comfortable about it. I said, we both prayed about it, and we both thought about it, and, so she said, well, okay then. So he said to me, he said, well, do you want the tissue valve or do you want the metal valve for your heart? I said, I'd rather have a tissue valve. So in selecting the tissue valve, he said, well, that would be better, He says, okay, but we will do this, we'll do the surgery. We're going to do the surgery on February the 17th. So that's when we're going to do the surgery. Is it okay with you? I said, yes, it's okay with me. Ask me again, are you satisfied? I said, yes, I'm satisfied, I said, the Lord has this. So we left and got in the car, and getting in the car, we decided that we needed to pray. So we solicited the Lord in prayer and prayed about it and left, came on home, and in coming home, we made preparations to get situated with everything in order to go to Providence Hospital to have the surgery done. And we went. I had the surgery done, and having the surgery done and all, everything came out okay. Only thing that was surprising and amazing to me, had the surgery done one day, and the next day they were telling me that I need to get up out of the bed and walk, and I decided, to me it was just too soon, just too soon for what I had gone through the day before. And I got up, sit on the side of the bed, they checked my pressure, checked my heart and everything like that, and everything seemed to be okay. So the doctor said, stand up. I stood up, and standing up, he said, are you getting lightheaded? I said, no, I'm not getting lightheaded. He said, well, how do you feel? I said, I feel okay. He said, well, take a couple steps. And I took a couple steps. And in my taking a couple steps, he said, well, I don't want you to do nothing but take a couple more steps. And then I want you to turn around and come back and sit on the side of your bed. And he had me take a couple steps. I come back and I sat on the side of my bed. He took my pressure again. He checked my heart rate and that. And after that, he said to me, he said, well, we're going to come back and we're going to remove 7 of these tubes that you have. You have 14 tubes. We're going to take 7 out. And then he said, we're going to have you get up and walk again. A little later on this afternoon, we'll have you walk again. And sweat popped off of me, buckets. My clothes got all wringing wet, because of the fact that I just couldn't realize what had just happened in my life. I had been through a storm, and going through the storm, I had experienced something that just could not believe would happen, you know, in my life. And I never forget that experience, you know. To me, it was a storm, one of the greatest storms in my life, you know. I just couldn't believe that things were going to come out the way they did. And, you know, I think about my granny's scripture that she always said for all seasons. She said, used to tell me, she said, Bill, this is for all seasons. So you think about this throughout your life. And that's Psalms 37, verse 25. And it reads like this. I've been young, and now I'm old, and yet have I not seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread. And you know, my granny lived to be 102 years old, you know. And in her lifetime, she's seen Jim Crow, race riots, slavery, the civil rights, wars on wars. And she also saw the Ku Klux Klan, you know, civil rights movement, you know. Many storms in her life, you know, during her time. She used to say, many storms has she seen. And, you know, in your life, it's a funny thing. We all go through storms. But one of the things I think about is a storm indicator. And that's an instrument that indicates the presence, existence of certain environmental conditions. And in the year of 2020, whether you believe it or not, we have been going through a storm. Now, this is what has happened in 2020. We've had a virus, and we've had a health crisis. The U.S. Economy took a downturn. Unemployment rate jumped up. Many people are jobless. We have social media issues. We have healthcare issues. We have circumstances that are related to educational reform. We have immigration issues, political unrest. We have right to work issues, racial and social injustice. During this time we have rioting, people breaking in stores, businesses. We have people that really just don't believe, based on the circumstances that are happening out in the environment. They just don't believe there's a God, you know. We have a religious war. We have things that are happening in the school system that you just wouldn't believe. You know, you just wouldn't believe. People, even there, are focused on the fact that students can only read at a third grade level. You know, the literacy rate is high in schools. You know, they have students with special needs that are not getting the service nor the resources that they need. We're at a time in our life where we have so many issues that we need to have legislation on. We need to have changes made within our society. You know, anytime you go through a storm anytime you go through a storm, there's always some damage. There's always some destruction. There's always some condition that you feel that you just can't bounce back from. You feel that whatever is happening, that you just can't see daylight or sunlight because it's such a dark and dismal place in life. You just have to think about, will I make it? Can I make it? How will I overcome this situation? You just have to think about, and some writers say that you shouldn't look back, but sometimes you have to look back just to see where you come from. And then you have to look back and think about where the Lord has brought you from, how you've been blessed, how you've been successful, and how you've learned to sustain the forces of destruction, the things that tear down your life, tear down your home, the relationships that you're involved in, that you can't see any good in them because they're destroying your life, destroying your home, destroying your family. You just have to think about all of these things. You have to sometimes think about the issues that are facing you, what you have to go through from day to day. You have to just think about these things. And even in thinking about, you still have to think about how blessed you are. And you have to think about where your blessings come from. You have to think about all of these things. And sometimes when you lay down at night, you can't hardly sleep because you're so involved in day-to-day situations, and you just wonder what tomorrow is going to bring. How are you going to overcome? How are you going to bounce back from the situation? And what is going to be like tomorrow? And I know that many say tomorrow isn't promised to you, but you can't help but to think about tomorrow. It's just human nature to think about tomorrow and what tomorrow is going to bring. Looking at storm assessments. Now, a storm assessment actually gives you a concept of the damage and the destruction that has occurred, during the storm. And during this 2000 storm that we're faced with here in the United States, we have a high death rate from the virus. And I was reading that the death rate in the United States is close to well, I'll put it this way. The death rate in the world is 430 million deaths. In the state of Michigan, there's 60,000 deaths from the virus. And worldwide, there's 8 billion cases of the virus that they have record of. And even that is not really being transparent when they tell us that, because every day the death rate, the cases of the individuals with the virus changes. But even with that, right now, during these times, we have been faced with an executive order to stay at home. Wear your mask, wear gloves. Now, we've also had an executive order which suspends all essential operations of business. We've had restaurants to close. We've had business to close. We've had to stay home. We've had things that happen where we have to remain social distancing. We've had a rise in food banks opening. We've had stores that did not have the essential things that we needed for everyday living. We also have had a critical thing that happened with the 2020 census. We have not been able to get that done because everybody's been in a stay-home mode. You can't even go to the post office, and even if you go to the post office to mail a letter, the way things are nowadays, the person that you're sending the letter to, you don't know when they're going to get it. You know, I sent out several Mother's Day cards, and a young lady I sent a Mother's Day card to, she got the card and she said when she was opening the card, she thought that I was sending her a birthday card, because her birthday is in June. Her birthday is the first part of June. Now I sent that Mother's Day card a week before Mother's Day, and she didn't get it until I think her birthday is the 8th of June, and she called me to, or at least she was thinking she was calling me to wish me a Father's Day, and then she was also going to tell me about the fact that she thought that I was sending her a birthday card in place of the Mother's Day card. And I told her I had forgot about the fact that her birthday was in June, you know. But, you know, even though we've been damaged with the storm, some good things have come out of it, you know. We ended up with a stimulus care package, you know, which helped, the government thought it would help to stimulate the economy. Now, some individuals took that stimulus check and went to the stores and bought clothes, but not food. Some of them bought things that they felt they needed. Televisions. You know, they bought a television. You know, it still stimulated the economy. You know, but that's just one of the things that they bought. Now, another good thing that's coming out of this storm assessment is that there's a race for research for a vaccine against this virus. You know, that's a good thing. Now, another thing that we had to look at too, there's going to be some businesses that are not going to be able to open up, because of the fact that they've been shut down so long. They've lost all of the revenue that would be coming to them, you know. And some of them are mom and pop shops. Some of them are exclusive stores and places of business that just won't be able to operate anymore. We have a shortage of medical equipment. You know, we have a shortage of medical equipment. We needed ventilators. We needed masks. We needed gloves. We needed hand sanitizers. You know, we finally caught up with all of these things now. We have a supply of, But we still had people out there, believe it or not, we had people out there that were hoarding this stuff. Some of them were selling the products on the black market, for a profit, doing all kinds of things, But that's human nature, you know how people are, you know them. Anything for a profit, anything for a profit. They do these things, they do that. But even amongst all that what has gone on, out of all that has gone on, I have to relate to this song of inspiration. And that is, he's sweet, I know. He's sweet, I know. Storm clouds may rise, strong winds may blow, but I can tell the world, wherever I go, that I have found a Savior, and he's sweet, I know. Now, we move on through storms and that type of thing, and we think about what does the storm predict? Storm that you're going through, what does it predict? What are going to be the future conditions? Or what's going to occur sooner or later, And what I see happening is that in the job market, individuals are going to have to be trained to do new jobs. It's going to be a new workforce, a new job market. And then we're going to have new legislation for health care, human rights, and educational reforms. We're going to have federal relief for loans, housing, and unemployment. These are things that we're going to have. The government are going to have to step up to the plate. We're going to step up to the plate, because the average individual don't have the finances or the wealth of many of the billionaires and millionaires that are in the United States. It has taken everything that an individual have right through and now to exist. And one thing I can really admire is the fact that people have compassion for one another. This is something that we need, and this is something that is constantly developing every day. Compassion and love for one another. I was in a supermarket, and in my moving around in the supermarket, I moved kind of close to a young lady, and she says, "Excuse me," and she stepped aside. She was honoring social distancing, and I said, "Well, I know you don't mean any harm, I'm trying to get by just like you." She said, "Yes." She said, "But, I just didn't mean to get in your way or block you, And I appreciate the fact that that's what she said, Then on my way out of the market, normally I'm in the habit of opening and closing doors for ladies, But this particular day, the young lady held the door for me, pulled back, white lady at that. She held the door for me. "Come on out, sir, come on out, come out, sir, come out, I said, "No, I was taught always that ladies first, She said, "Well, I can hold the door for you. You got a shopper's cart full of groceries. I can hold the door for you, if you don't mind." I said, "No, I don't mind. I just, speaking about how I was brought up and raised, but I appreciate your kindness." And I left and went on. But these are the things that are happening, that you know, you don't see or haven't seen for some time, you know. And even the protesting that is taking place, it is just as many other ethnic groups taking a part of it and having a concern for our black brothers and sisters, you know. You know, they have the compassion for us, and we should have the same compassion for them, because we're all going through this thing together. We need to understand that, you know, there's no big you and little me and vice versa, you know. We have to think about loving one another and sharing the wealth with one another, because I can't stand up without your support, and I can't rise up without your support, and vice versa. Now, another thing that I'm looking at is that we're going to have energy conservation laws passed in the new years to come. We're going to have new technology, new methods and ways of manufacturing goods, and future automobile companies are going to change the way that they produce cars. Believe it or not, they're going to change, because I think they're behind this virus. There's cars just sitting on the lots and people not buying them, and so you can't gain any wealth or revenue from cars that are sitting idle, you know. And notice gas prices dropped after they issued the executive order of stay home. You know, gas prices dropped. Well, you don't need no gas if you ain't going nowhere. You know, you can't go anywhere. You know, so you don't really need any gas. Another thing I see is normalization of stock market and the economy. I have you to know that with the stock market and the virus, stock market dropped lower than it did in 2008. You know, and those that had stock was rushing to sell what they had in order to gain a profit from the stock. And it turned the market up in such a way that people didn't know what to do, how to do, you know. They blaming China, they blaming Mexico and that, you know. But you think back, you know, prior to the 2020 storm, we sent everything to Mexico, we sent everything to China, and everything to Japan, because the labor was cheap, and the millionaires and billionaires got wealthy. You know, this virus came out of China. They said they don't want nothing from China now. You know, I don't want. You know, we're not shipping anything over to China now. You know, and then they got to thinking about, you know, well, all of this had an effect on their wealth. You know, all of this had an effect on that wealth that they had gained over the years. So, you know, you have to look at that. But I also see church doors opening again. I see people wanting to be in the service, taking a part in the order of church. I see people again finding their way back to God. You know, learning to trust and to believe in the Lord. I see that taking place. Even in my conversation with family and friends, I see it taking place. You know, people just can't wait to get inside of the sanctuary. You know, they can't wait just to be in the house of the Lord. You know, and I also see, you know, these things happening, and I also see people wondering, will I prevail? Will I prevail the storm? Will I continue to exist after the storm? And I say to you, yes, you're going to prevail. Yes, you're going to beat the storm. And yes, you're going to have a new outlook on life. You know, I see all of these things happening in this world of ours. And I also have you to understand, the Bible is filled with the words of encouragement. The vision of Psalms 107 describes God's provisions for the redeemed. And it says in verse 29, He maketh the storm as a calm, so that the waves thereof are still. In the book of Isaiah 25, chapter 25, verse 4, it reads, For thou hast been a strength to the poor, a strength to the needy in his distress, a refuge for the storm, a shadow from the heat, when the blast of the terrible one is like a storm against the wall. And finally, in the book of Nahum, chapter 1, verse 7, it reads, The Lord is good, a stronghold in a day of trouble, and He knows those who trust in Him. And one of my inspirational songs that I think about often, we're blessed. We're blessed. We're blessed. We are blessed. We have shelter, clothing, health, and strength. We are blessed. We blessed. We're blessed. We're blessed. We don't deserve it, but yet we're blessed. You know, I just thank the Lord. You know, I just thank the Lord how He's brought me through the many storms of my life. You know, I think about relationships with people, and He's placed people in my life that has been there when I needed them. When I was at my lowest moment, they were there to comfort me. When I lost loved ones, they were there to support me. When everything seemingly was going wrong, they stood strong beside me and blessed me. And I just have to think about, you know, not only those things, but I have to think about my church family. I think about how close with some I have become, and even with others I'm still growing to love and to understand them. And just through the goodness and the grace of God, we're all blessed, you know. And I live in such a way that, you know, I feel that it's only fitting that I say that I'll bless thee, O Lord. I'll bless thee, O Lord. I'll bless thee, O Lord. With a heart of thanksgiving, I'll bless thee, O Lord. With my hands lifted up and my mouth filled with praise, with a heart of thanksgiving, I will bless thee, O Lord. And I just ask him, Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. And with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary, Lord, for you. You know, I hope that I said something about a storm where you will come to realize you have nothing to fear but fear itself. I hope you understand that the Lord has this. Whatever storm you're going through, He'll show you the way. He'll comfort you. And He'll let you know that it is not as dark as you think it is, or as dark as some think it will come to be. That He will see you through. Now, Lord, in my humble way, I ask you to bless Mount Vernon. Bless all that comes in its doors and out its doors. Bless those. Bless those that are unable to come. Those that are unable to send finances to support the church. Bless them, Lord. Bless those that sin. Bless those that are concerned about your sanctuary, about your church, about the welfare of others. Bless them, Lord, we pray. We ask that you bless all. Not only Mount Vernon, but bless all every church door that's open in your name, we pray. And bless your ministers. Bless your saints. Bless your children. For they need you, Lord. We need you, Lord. And we just want to praise you. We just want to show you that we're thankful for your mercy and your grace. We just want to show you, Lord, that we're your children. And that you are our Lord. You're our God. And there is none other like you. We just want to thank you in every way that we can. Now, Lord, in closing, we ask that you be mindful of us. Be mindful of the things that we do, the things that we say. And we ask that you get the credit. That all of this is said in Jesus' name. And in Jesus' name we have prayed. And we said, thank you, Lord. Amen.
He is ours. When